Throughout history, music has been a powerful catalyst for change. It has a unique ability to bring people together in times of peace and crisis. When we first started this band, we just wanted to tour the world and play music. But the further we travelled, the more it hit home. We were unintentionally endangering our own future. The world we knew was changing fast, and we realised we had to change with it.
Come on, Benny. Give us a smile.
Hi, Jake.
Can I get your autograph?
In Heart's Wake has been this incredible journey of self-discovery in my life. I don't think that I would be the same person I am today if I hadn't had all of these experiences touring.
I get to travel the world with 4 of my best friends playing music we love. The importance to me of the band has definitely evolved over the years. What started out as, you'd say, just a group of mates getting together to play heavy music has definitely evolved into a family, and also a space where we can kind of get together and voice our ideas and our issues that are going on in the world.
When you're creating music, you're not thinking about anything else. You know, it's like meditating. There's nothing else going on. Like, you don't even know what time it is. You're just caught up creating.
Throughout my teenage years and into my 20s, it has always been there as an outlet, as a release, as something that has been there as a brotherhood of amazing friends. I didn't have any brothers growing up, so it was the family that chose me.
What I love about living here in this local area is that, I mean, it's home, and it is pretty hard to beat home. You could go 30 minutes west and you're on top of the most beautiful mountain range, and then you go 30 minutes the other way and I'm on a beach that stretches for like 50 kilometers, and I mean, that's pretty hard to find anywhere in the world.
The area that we've grown up in has definitely helped shape the way that we look at the environment around us. Living so close to the beach, living so close to national parks, it's been a nurturing environment to grow up in. It's definitely helped deepen my connection with nature.
It has nurtured me throughout the years and given me a deep sense of love for the planet. The more we tour the world, the more I realise how much it has been such an important part to my life, and In Heart's Wake being reflective of those values is something that we wish to impart. So we realized that being in a worldwide touring band is very problematic. It raises all kinds of issues and challenges that are difficult to overcome.
It's really easy to form habits that aren't necessarily really great for the environment and the world that we live in. And what I mean is, you start a band and you just need to print the cheapest run of shirts that you can so that you can sell them to fans and start to promote your band. You want to try and find the cheapest way to manufacture music and get it out there, the cheapest way to record. You might even get an old van that's like 30 years old and jump in it that just guzzles petrol like a motherfucker. And that's all understandable, like it's hard. It's really, really hard. You're getting paid $200 a show and spending $250 in fuel just to get there.
Touring is the heart of what bands do, connecting with audiences, bringing our music around the world. It's super important, and it's also the lion's share of an artist's income. But the reality is that it has a massive environmental cost. It's also the reality of not just the music profession, but so many professions that have to fly for a living.
What's often happened in discussion around climate is that we focus very heavily on emissions in industry and agriculture and meat and these kind of different industries. But really the entertainment industry's kind of got a free pass through all of this.
Flying across the world and, spending all these times in buses and doing all these extra things. We took a bus to get there, we fly there, we get off there, we're in the bus for 6 weeks, we get back on the plane, you go home. You're just traveling, you don't think of the externalities of what's going on.
It's extraordinary the emissions that we generate. I think even Qantas has on their website that a return flight to London from Sydney is the equivalent emissions of leaving an air conditioner run for 7,000 hours. So if you think about the travel, the tours that bands do, it's extraordinary.
We'd been touring all over the world non-stop, and we were physically exhausted. We were also starting to see the impact we were having on the planet.
I got the feeling that the guys were pretty burnt out after the ARC campaign, and they were also a little bit conflicted, They were trying to work out, well, what is it that we want to do next? How do we come up with something that is really putting our money where our mouth is and really starting to make a positive difference in the world?
After years of relentless touring, we were relieved to be back home. But we were also at a crossroads. Although our shows were getting bigger and we were closer to making a full-time living from our music, the negatives were also becoming ever more apparent. In order to grow as a band, you need to tour as much as you can, put on a great stage show, and sell as much merchandise as possible. But what's often neglected is how this process impacts the planet. Our band's ethos grew out of our love for the natural living world, but we were harming the very thing we needed to protect. Conflicted and overwhelmed, we decided to take a break and return to our day jobs while we figured out the future of In Heart's Wake.
I have a super arbitrary life outside of In Heart's Wake. I work a normal job, carpet cleaning. I run my own business.
I manage a cocktail bar in a restaurant in Byron. I was working 5 to 6 days a week, long days, and it can be quite stressful, especially in hospitality.
I've worked the same job for over 10 years now, and I'm grateful to have had that kind of opportunity. But there's a huge part of me missing when I'm not being creative, when I don't have that outlet of the band.
Your day-to-day life is dictated by an alarm clock. You get in the car, you go to work, you do your 10 hours, you get in the car, you go home, you set your alarm, it goes off the next morning, you're back at it again.
I moved to America, and that really changed my life. I found myself on TV sets, Hollywood film sets. I played an extra in the show Glow on Netflix. Here I am, in a line, lining up for my costume at 5 a.m. in the morning after driving in rush hour. I'm living in a concrete jungle. It was an experience, but it was a realization, hang on a second, perhaps this isn't the way to live. Between the sirens, the pollution, the rat race, my senses were overwhelmed. I had to reevaluate everything. So I did it the only way that I knew how. I went back to nature.
So, built this debris hut out of some large sticks, ribbing, and a ridgepole. And then I got heaps and heaps and heaps of debris, which is pine needles and all the decomposing beautiful bits of nature. And I've been sleeping in it for the past few nights.
Time away from the band showed just how much it meant to us. It had become an important part of who we were and a calling to something far bigger than the five of us. So we started to ask the question, could there be a new way to run the band? One that wasn't at the expense of future generations. Even if it meant changing how we operated entirely, we knew we had to explore it. After 2 years apart, we were inspired to come back together and embark on a new way forward. I found myself at a climate march. I have my phone out, recording Greta Thunberg speaking and addressing, a few 100,000 people.
Hello, New York City.
And it was an incredible speech. It was a really beautiful moment to see all of this energy and all of this passion come through her as if she were a bridge to something much bigger than herself.
This is an emergency. Our house is on fire.
So I recorded that, and I was in the studio a week later, and I'm there with our producer. I was like, Josh, like, here's this sample. Let's, I've recorded on my phone of Greta speaking. Let's make a track out of this. And we ended up with the start of Kaliyuga.
This is an emergency. Our house is on
We have always been an environmentally driven band, but I feel like we've sort of been saying, here's the message, take it or leave it. With this record, we were pretty fed up with what's been going on in the world and how people react to us spreading that message. You're always going to get some hate from it. We just thought, why not just say it how we want to say it?
This project could be something that wasn't just the band telling people what they believe, but actually showing people what they believe.
We come back together after 2 years apart, and we decided to draw a line in the sand. Less is more. Let's be as accountable as we can be. Let's do the best we can do. And let's create something together as if it were our last record. Let's get that passion and that fire back.
Oh, Jakey boy, what's going on, buddy? You ready to make this record happen or what? You ready to do it? Let's go. We're starting with vocals in 5 minutes. Let's go, buddy.
Shit.
Come on. I am the knowing in the nothingness.
It's a cool sound, that. It's a slide.
It is a cool sound.
Our 3 previous records were inspired by earth, air, and water. So naturally we thought this record would be about fire. But there was no way we could have predicted what would happen back home.
Hello, with at least 8 people known to have died since Monday alone and thousands continuing to shelter in evacuation centres, the terrifying scale of Australia's bushfire disaster is beginning to emerge.
We're in the studio and Australia catches flame. We had no idea just how catastrophic these fires would turn out to be. It for sure influenced what we were feeling at the time, and it bled into our music.
We want to be influenced by what's going on around us in the world, and that's how our music's going to come out.
For as long as punk and hardcore has been around, it's given people a voice. It's given them an outlet to express their opinion. We want to use the platform we're lucky enough to stand on as a vessel for change. And right now for us, it's the environment, it's the climate crisis.
The world is burning. We have to write a record about fire.
So what's it gotta be? 2033. Will we be concerned before we cross the point of no return? So what's it gotta be? 2033. Will the answer lie in just a virgin wants to burn?
The Hindu ancients spoke of the 4 ages of humanity. We are currently in the 4th age, called Kaliyuga. It was foretold to be a difficult time, full of discord, destruction, disease, oppression, greed, and fear. But I believe we were born to these times for a reason. If we can face the fires of Kaliyuga, then we can learn to adapt and overcome.
Jake came up with the idea to carbon offset the album. It wasn't until we got into the logistics of things that we realized how difficult it was going to be. Like, we had to measure everything.
Calculating the power usage on this record is something I've never done before.
Any travel, the cost of any freight, the food we were buying, our trips to and from the studio, the output of the electricity that we were using while we were recording. It almost got annoying because we'd go to do, and Jake's like, no, hang on, we have to start the measurements again, so we know what we're measuring. All right, guys, have you got it all plugged in? Like, all right, yes, all right, we're good. But I'm glad that we did it, because in the end, we did come up with an actual figure to carbon offset the entire album process.
Great.
Hey! How's it going? Nice to see you.
So
Oh, that was your total.
that's the total.
bands are, I would say, like big emitters. If you think about like the flights that are involved, like flight and air travel is like the biggest thing.
This constant
Yeah.
like struggle that a lot of artists, businesses have. You have to make bottom line in order to like look after your family and provide, which you don't want to do it at the cost of the planet. But like, how do you do both?
It seems like a lot at the beginning, I think, especially like figuring out your boundary, as they call it, like, so, you know, what's in my control. And but once that's like understood and it's just like, okay, we know we have to save all these receipts and it's all like doable. Carbon emissions are a type of greenhouse gas. It's the most harmful of the greenhouse gases. They stay in the atmosphere for thousands of years by burning any organic material, be it oil, coal, gas. That's what's releasing those carbon emissions into the atmosphere. That has created this greenhouse effect, warming the earth more than is sustainable.
You need like a badass name for what you do.
No,
Carbon warrior S or something. You can say that Carbon warrior. Yeah. Because the consultant thing, it sounds very like
the Earth Accountant.
Yeah.
Earth Accountant.
Earth Accountant. I like that.
That's good.
So to carbon offset something, it means to counteract the carbon footprint. So you're purchasing a equivalent carbon unit to the carbon unit that you have produced. Through that mechanism, you're essentially like carbon neutral.
The rigorous process that takes to go and audit every delivery that got done, every flight, every package that might have got sent, it's not an easy thing to do, but it does show you just how much you can generate.
I didn't think creating a carbon neutral record would be easy, but I didn't think it would be this difficult. There's certain aspects that we definitely had to change and we had to monitor to make sure that we were falling in line with that. And I wouldn't say that negatively impacted the album at all. I think if anything, it helped us stay more focused.
I've never had a band or musician approach me to do a footprinting process. So it's been so interesting to hear about how you guys consume, what unique emission sources you have linked to your operations, your touring. It's like a whole new world, and all the flights that really go into that, and like the weight that goes with all the gear, and you know, if you're thinking about like hotel stays and food that's getting bought, there's so many like facets of it that normal organisations that I deal with don't necessarily have.
We have created a system built on fossil fuels, and until we start pivoting to something better, we just have to be really aware, try and offset where we can, try and leave the smallest footprint possible.
Music is like the core of culture across the world and something I like adore. So it's so interesting to be mapping that and seeing maybe there are some holes that we can get more understanding of and knowledge on, and hopefully that can be shared with other bands.
So we calculated that the total carbon footprint of Caliuga was 26.5 tonnes of CO2. We offset the record by purchasing carbon credits in Western Australia, which is a project in the Yarra Yarra Biodiversity Corridor. By reforesting and rewilding this area, it brings in the wildlife, and the earth really benefits from this too.
Well, my name is Damon Gammo, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. And the most recent film I made was called 2040, which was a letter to my daughter showing her what the world could look like in 2040 if we put into practice the best solutions that we have available. I really had enormous fear about my daughter's future. I just thought, how the hell am I going to tell her about what's coming? There are going to be consequences we have to deal with in the next 2 decades, and it's important to not shy away from those. They are the realities. You know, we're likely to lose the reef. You know, that's just what's going to happen because we haven't done enough. There are going to be more megafires. We are losing biodiversity at a frightening rate. The records just keep getting smashed in terms of hottest records and hottest months. It's just, you know, it's unequivocal now. I mean, we all know it.
We've been in a climate crisis for a decade. We've reached 1.2 degree Celsius warming. It is going beyond the worst case scenarios. The scientists have predicted exactly what's happening on the planet right now, and that's longer and more extreme droughts, less rainfall, and more extreme weather events. think the most significant problem with the Australian government's climate policy is that there just hasn't been one. And breaking the hold that the fossil fuel industry has over politicians has been very difficult when you see the figures and the amounts of dollars that are being donated to these politicians and to their political parties. It has held us hostage.
Corruption under my skin! How could I let it in? Corruption under my skin! How could I let it out?
The fossil fuel industry has had its foot on the throat of Liberal and national governments for a couple of decades.
Sometimes thinking that we have 10 years to do the right thing can actually promote inaction. At a federal level, we've just been so misled. You know, I've been to multiple countries now and spoken about this issue, and we are an embarrassment internationally. You know, people often say, well, what are you doing down there? You know, you've got all the resources that you could want in terms of the wind and the solar energy. You should be an absolute powerhouse in this space already. And then you have to explain the issues of lobbying, how controlled our media landscape is, who controls that narrative in this country is a huge factor that's contributed to our inaction. I think really it can be dangerous to talk about how much time we have left to act. We just have to act now.
The bushfires that recently came through Australia were especially scary because they came very close to my front door. The ferocity of them, like there was no end in sight. I had friends that lived a lot closer to them who had bags packed, who were ready to leave. It was terrifying. Like I've never experienced anything like that. We have friends of the family that live up here in the mountains that lost everything. It was so unexpected and it took off so quickly and it was, you know, an unstoppable force. The scale of it all was terrifying. This is definitely my first experience with something that we get warned about that will eventually affect us, actually affecting us.
The independent firefighters in this country have repeatedly spoken about their belief and their view based on the science that these are unprecedented bushfires that we saw.
Millions of hectares were burnt. 3 billion animals were killed or displaced during those fires. 3 billion. And you think of what we're already doing to the biodiversity around the planet. I mean, there was a report that came out recently that since 1970, we have decimated 68% of animals on this planet. 68% in 50 years. So we can ill afford to have another fire like that just destroys 3 billion animals or misplaces them.
One word that comes to mind when describing what the atmosphere was like when the fires were on were apocalyptic. Like you walk outside and it's 8 in the morning and you look up and the sky is bright red, and then the wind changes and there's a glimpse of blue and then it changes again and it's black, and that's it for the rest of the day. I checked the air quality index, who was saying hazardous, don't go outside. So just to put in perspective, air quality was 10 times worse than usual.
We had 50% of our audience on site and had to cancel festival mid-show because of the threat of bushfires. Weather is becoming more of an issue.
Caliuga was almost preemptive. Like while we're writing this album that is to do with such a ferocious element, we get home and that's what's taken over the country at that point.
Worldwide suicide was a mixture of the frustration and the pain and the feeling of what the world was going through.
As far as I'm concerned, it's an intergenerational crime. It's a crime against future generations, and it's a crime against the earth. It is suicide. It's suicide for us not to care for the planet.
So I think one of the most frustrating things is how scared artists are to talk about climate change sometimes. This is your moment. Fuck, how much more material do you need? Sing it from the fucking rooftops. Out of that crisis comes this opportunity to fundamentally change how we interact with all of our living systems, because we aren't separate from nature. This is why we're alive, for God's sake. This is why we're here, you know, and we just got to wake people up from that reverie, and that's where I think music can do it. Rallying against the system and saying it can be better.
The world is such a beautiful, amazing place that we so desperately need to have as a part of our lives. It is much a part of me as it's much a part of every single human being out there. We are the earth and the earth is us. So when we abuse and we destroy the earth, we are destroying and abusing a part of ourselves.
So along with our worldwide suicide music video we released on YouTube, we have organized a tree planting initiative. For every 1,000 views, we're going to plant a native tree in the Byron hinterland.
So for every view, instead of it being a, like, oh yeah, that was cool, you're contributing towards something.
It's a pretty amazing thing that we're going to be able to do. Breathe new life along a riverbank here at home.
So the planting here will establish the bank?
Yes.
Okay. And then how far along?
All the way right to the corner. So where the fence is there,
yep.
That's the end. That's one boundary.
Yep.
And then the other boundary is over there. So we've got about 200, 300 meters of
a lot of
prime
real estate.
It was just amazing that we found somebody like Greg who was willing to give us the land to be able to do it and honestly help us kind of get the project off the ground.
Seen platypus here 4 or 5 times.
That's pretty rare.
Which, yeah, it's not usual that you see them.
Beautiful rolling hills, plenty of land, plenty of space, plenty of fresh air, fans, all of our friends and family putting our efforts into planting these native trees. And I think the most important part about that is that it's in our backyard. We're going to be able to watch these things grow as we grow as well.
During the cycle of our previous record, we were holding waterway cleanups in cities around the world. At first, we'd look and we wouldn't see much there, but as we began to dig deeper, piles of trash and plastic literally began to grow in front of us.
We really hate plastic. When you realise and you look at what it is and what the genetic makeup of plastic is and what it's designed to do, it's designed to not break down. But now we're in a problem where we've got all this plastic that's not breaking down, it's ending up in the waters, it's ending up in landfill, and we only have one Earth. We don't have another Earth where we can just go, oh sweet, this Earth's fucked. Let's go to this other Earth which doesn't have all this plastic.
There's whole populations of seabirds that now go out to sea to catch food for their young, and they come back with chunks of plastic and feed their little babies that then have to have bellies full of plastic to the point they can't waddle anymore. And there are teams of researchers whose job it is to massage the plastics out of their tummy. Learning that was the most devastating moment and the most eye-opening moment, because I saw that they were massaging out like plastic bottle tops of drinks that I consume.
Plastics won't break down over thousands of years. The first original piece of plastic is still here.
A few years ago, we made a pledge to not have plastic bottles on our rider anymore because it was so horrible. You'd be on tour and every single night there would be hundreds of water bottles with like a few sips taken out of them. And then someone's put it down and they've forgotten if it was their water bottle or not, and then they don't want to drink out of it anymore. And not just to mention all the water that got wasted, but all the plastic.
It's only in the last, I think, about 2 years that I've seen a lot of artists start to demand no plastic as part of their riders. For all those artists, just keep on pushing for it, just keep on demanding it. The more and more times businesses get told that they have to provide something in an eco-friendly way, then the more they're actually going to do it.
We stopped selling single-use plastic bottles and rolled out a reusable drink container system. You now put a deposit down on your first drink of $2 and you get a reusable cup for your drink, and when you go back to the bar you just hand your cup over and you get a new clean cup, and then at the end you can go and cash your cup in for a refund. And what we saw was a remarkably clean site, and I think we reduced our waste by about 40 tonnes.
The moment we realized that maybe the plastic pool toys weren't a good idea was Adelaide Arc Tour. We did a lot of work with Sea Shepherd, cleaning up beaches and marinas, and we also had them selling their merch and promoting Sea Shepherd at our show. And the lady who came to sell their stuff came up to us that night and she's like, why do you have all of these plastic pool toys? Like, you know where that's going to end up eventually. And I guess that was the moment we were like, yeah, you're right. We take any feedback that's given to us, whether it comes in a negative or a positive light.
Accountability is looking in the mirror, owning up to the shit that we might not get right, we haven't gotten right.
No one's perfect, so just address your own issues and try your best to work from there. That's all you can do is try.
Going to shows and stuff, seeing the live show, we were all really excited when we got the opportunity to actually be able to put on some special effects, make it really exciting for the crowd. But since doing that, we've kind of come to realize that that doesn't really align with our ethos.
Getting up on stage and saying, you know, this one's for the planet, and then having CO2 columns shoot into the air and not thinking or making that connection between the two till you actually look at CO2, realize, hey, you know, this is carbon dioxide, we need to have this conversation, guys, was something that ignorantly we were doing.
So used to seeing, you know, all the big jets going off and all the big explosions and tons of confetti streaming down from the rafters like it's a really cool thing and it's the thing that every band should do to be a big band. But those things are very harmful to the environment.
Like if you're a band that is known for your live show and you do these huge live shows with pyrotechnics and huge sets and 50 crew running around trying to make this thing happen, I'm not 100% sure how you can say like, oh, well, we want to do this in a more eco-friendly way. You know, it's not just a matter of just being able to change overnight. But I have to believe that as eco becomes big business and as people realize that the market is demanding it more and more, that new technologies are going to come along that enable people to do things that are really, really amazing without having to basically burn thousands and thousands and thousands of kilos of carbon.
We don't need to be using all of that stuff and adding to the problem. We can still have so much fun and have a minimal footprint.
Through the process of looking into other alternatives for stage production, we've started looking at investing in some lights that we take on the road with us too, rather than into the more pollutant versions of special effects.
Visuals and projections as opposed to explosions. There are definitely solutions out there, and I feel like the research that needs to be done hasn't quite been a need for that until now. As the music industry and as we seek those out, I hope that we discover solutions and that others can bring ideas forward. What are we going to do for the stage show? Obviously, we're not going to do pyro.
Yeah.
We're not going to blow up anything.
Yeah.
So how are we going to put on a show that's entertaining and it still has that excitement and wow factor?
What are the things that we can lean on? There's lighting.
Yeah, lighting's obviously like pretty decent one to work with.
The other thing we could look at, a way to put on a show and make it look great, projections. Projections or LED boards.
LED walls are expensive.
Yeah.
You know, hard to get and take a bit of time to set up, but they look great. Projectors are expensive, but, you know, are a lot more portable, and we might be able to do some weirder looking projections maybe, I don't know.
I like the idea of visuals.
Yeah, that's a good
That's
point.
definitely what we've got to lean on.
Yeah.
And how else do we interact with the crowd? I just keep coming back to that. Like, something that works day and night, that engages the crowd, as we have done in the past, is confetti, right? It'd be sweet if the bio-confetti was like in the shape of leaves.
Could we use leaves? Like,
where do we get them?
Yeah.
And how do we fly them?
We wouldn't be able to use CO2, which would be a
true.
really good way of projecting it.
Yeah.
We're gonna
compressed air.
There are some other options, but like we'll have to test them. At least we know with the compressed air one, we've used it before on a previous tour,
And it can really get.
and it can fire pretty big.
We need a local leaf harvester.
Yeah.
Can we call it Leafetti?
Yeah, I'm alright with that. Yeah.
All right, Dad.
Yeah, Leafetti fits.
Hey, it works. Says what it is.
Yeah.
You've got all the flights booked.
Yeah.
Accommodation.
All good to go. Yeah.
So we plug all of our movements into this calculator and give it to Grace. Grace can put it all and generate the footprint, so we can offset the entire download experience.
Cool.
Whatever, as far as I understand, whatever's within our control, like the boundary, we have the ability to offset that. It's going to be good. Good place to test it. With Caliuga due for release in 6 months, we asked our label to help us create a physical record that wouldn't cost the earth.
For a band like In Heart's Wake, vinyl sales have always been such a massive part of the culture behind the band and also the business behind the band. For artists within the heavy music scene, their fan bases like to connect with them a little bit more than just hitting play on an app. They want to hold something in their hands and they want to be able to kind of experience it and feel like they're part of a moment in history.
Aside from offsetting the recording process itself, it was super important that we create this record with as minimal waste as possible.
We've never had an artist come to us and say, hey, we want to make something that is a really premium package, but also let's make sure that it's completely sustainable and completely recycled. So how do we release a record for a band that wants to do physical product and for a fan base that demands physical product without having to make it bad for the earth?
Not wrapping things in plastic or shrink wrap, not putting CDs in jewel cases. Also vinyl. Vinyl's a huge one. I don't think we all realize, but the vinyl itself is plastic that's been melted down, and it's potentially a huge pollutant.
So we came up with this idea of trying to do a completely, eco-friendly packaging, eco-friendly everything. The vinyl itself was made out of completely recycled wax. We got a whole bunch of offcuts from a whole bunch of different records that had been pressed, and we put them in as this special one called the molten vinyl. Every single unit was completely new because it was all just made out of different bits and pieces that people had thrown in. And I actually think that ended up being probably the best vinyl. We're all just really, really excited to have this one thing that's a one of one. The first caveats that I had to tell the guys was, well, look, we might not be able to get any of this music into retail. Like, are you willing to miss out on, you know, all those CD sales or those vinyl sales that would be going into stores? And the guys were. There's the fact that, you know, stuff can get damaged if it's not wrapped in plastic. It's getting shipped around the world and shipped to people, and they're like, well, we're willing to take that risk as well.
The major hurdle when it came to releasing the physical copies of the album was major retailers flat out saying no when we requested they not be wrapped in plastic.
It's a huge hit to sales, but at the end of the day, how can we have sales if we can't have a sustainable way to do all of this?
Every time you go and buy a CD or anything in the shop, it's always wrapped in plastic. So I don't know if it's them not wanting to cut out something in their production line or piss off whoever. It's just how it's always done. So I think trying to curve that is a real challenge.
I'm excited for the technologies and the ways that we can work around that.
It was really cool to not have the vinyl or the CDs wrapped in plastic, but instead sealed by a paper card that had what each variant was.
What we came up with was a recycled bit of paper that you use as an obi strip that kind of goes over and kind of like becomes like almost like a ribbon that goes around the record to try and hold the vinyl in there.
There was also detail in the inks and the dyes that were used. They're all safe and they're all eco-friendly as well. In the same way that the materials were challenged for the vinyl and felt more premium, the packing materials were challenged and felt more premium. Selling a product that's completely different and almost double the cost, there is a level of concern that it's not going to sell. We've never had an artist request anything like this on this scale. An entire release that's completely waste-free and asking us to question everything down to our adhesive on our packaging.
We want things to be really high quality, we want things to be sustainable, and we want things to actually matter. We're not just creating physical product just for the sake of being able to create things and move units. We're creating something that we want people to be able to hold on to and really love.
We're in a strange place where we're stuck in between suppliers that don't necessarily give a crap versus people and consumers that do. So juggling that fine balance and trying to find a solution for everyone is really challenging.
It is really hard for artists to make a living out of music. I think that there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. You have to work really, really hard and be really adaptable and willing to change.
The fashion industry produces 10% of all carbon emissions. So another key area we needed to unpack was the issues around merchandise.
And a hemp too.
Oh, they're on hemp, yeah.
Great.
Since Offends began back in 2006, we evolved as we got more knowledge and technology also evolved. We started to do better ways of production. We started researching better ways that we can use raw materials. Now our full mission is really innovating ways to be more sustainable. Fast fashion, you know, that word gets thrown around quite a lot and, you know, it's similar to fast food. 85% of all clothing that people are buying gets thrown out and goes to landfill and might not be a biodegradable product.
We've got merchandise that is made on all kinds of harmful cottons and polyesters and materials. The general rule of thumb is get it printed for as cheap as possible or get it out there. Most of the market of merchandise, as we're discovering, that regular cotton uses so much pesticides and so much water to get it to that process.
I think the first step that anyone can take is change from conventional cotton to organic cotton. It takes a lot less water and it has a shitload less impact on the soil. That layer of soil is what's growing all our fruit and vegetables and trees and plants. We destroy that with pesticides, then we're destroying everything. So everything should be done the most natural way possible. There's a variety of different eco-friendly fibres out there. One that we really love is hemp. I think 80% of all textiles back in the 1800s were made out of hemp. The word canvas comes from cannabis. The technology is getting there, but it's not readily available to basically make the harvesting of hemp in Australia a commercially viable industry. So it's not there yet.
For us, the issue with using organic cotton as opposed to regular cotton is that it is that bit more expensive.
I think it's hard because, you know, while there's some people that'll be really understanding of why like a merchandise garment might cost a little bit more or a vinyl package might cost a little bit more, when you're trying to do things en masse and you're trying to do it in a way that can sustain wages and sustain like the ability for the band to survive, you are going to get some people that are like, well, I don't care if your shirt's organic, like I don't want to pay an extra $10 for it.
To make a sustainable product, it's going to cost a bit more, but the importance of buying quality over quantity is the most important thing you can have for sustainability.
For us, like we want to give our fans and people that support the band something that's going to last them 5 times longer than a product that's mass manufactured and cheaper.
With price increase, you're buying a better quality product that you won't have to buy more of.
I don't know how many times I've bought certain brand t-shirts and you go in one wash and it comes out looking like fucking SpongeBob SquarePants. So I'd rather, you know, higher quality, less quantity. You might pay $5 or $10 more for a t-shirt at this point, but the price that our kids' kids, and their planet will pay is far less. And I think that's a pretty worthwhile sacrifice to make in the present.
As much as I would love to tell people to keep buying as many clothes as you possibly can, because that would benefit the company that I'm in, I would prefer people to buy a lot less, look after your clothes, and buy things that you really love and cherish.
Every time you spend $1, that's your vote, essentially. And as an individual, that's the greatest power we have, is where we spend our money and where we cast our votes, because that's where we put our energy, ultimately. Wanting to learn more about sustainable touring, we travelled to meet up with cloud control vocalist Heidi Lenfar, who's been working to provide solutions through her organisation, FEET.
FEET is a movement of artists investing in solar farms around Australia. So when an artist comes on tour with FEET, part of the revenue that's created from that tour helps to build new solar farms around Australia.
It's almost impossible to go to America and go to Europe without catching a plane. These are the issues that, you know, we face.
We worked with some specialists to calculate that our tour of Australia, which was 16 shows in theatre-sized venues, created 28 tonnes of carbon, and that's equivalent to the annual emissions of a household. So a household of 5 persons will create the same amount of carbon emissions as we did in just 2 weeks of touring. And bands don't just tour for 2 weeks. We really need to have strategies in place to mitigate the negative aspects and to enrich our touring with positive solutions. We've managed to build an entire solar farm in the Darling Downs region in rural southwest Queensland. And this solar farm is big enough to power 11,300 homes in the area and will generate clean energy for 30 years. It shows what you can pull off in a short period of time if you give people a simple solution that they can get behind.
Hearing about Heidi's solar project inspired us to investigate what other renewable solutions were out there. We came across A.Y. Young, who had developed an exciting concept called the battery tour.
I believe the answer to fixing the music business and industry, which is what I'm pushing, is simply just storage. You know, you can't just have the power of the sun to power a concert. You're gonna have to have something stored, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
That's your key.
I think sustainable touring is important because music is a universal language, you know? And if you're really gonna drive change, I think if you're really gonna make an impact, it's gotta be through music. I started powering concerts because they wouldn't let me in the arena because I didn't have 1 million fans. I had just got off this TV show called X Factor. I didn't have the followers. Managers wouldn't email me back, and I just didn't give up. I was like, shoot, man, I want to perform. So I started powering concerts the only way I knew how, with renewable energy. We're storing energy in batteries and doing 8 to 10 hour shows every single day. My eureka moment was when I figured out, oh shoot, energy is the base resource. And if you store enough energy, you can power anything. We do these concerts, we bring people together of all ages, all demographics, We also use the battery tour as a way to promote, develop, deploy sustainable solutions to people who need them. There's actually 1 billion people that lack access to energy. Is the battery tour scalable? Yes. First of all, I've done 800 or more, close to 900 concerts powered by renewable energy. And it's clear that we already have what we need for the biggest festivals in the world to do this, to power their concerts renewably, or to take huge actionable steps to do it more sustainably.
My hope for the future is that we can make touring a sustainable thing so we can continue to do it in the future.
I received an urgent email from Download Festival. It said that the whole thing had been cancelled. It meant that we'd lost all of our flights, hotels, and bookings, which was a huge setback.
Country goes into lockdown. Sad time, really, really sad time. A lot to think about, a lot to deal with, and a lot to realize in the fact that we might not be able to tour ever again. And we don't want the fans to suffer. We want the world to hear the music.
Well, the pandemic has brought the live sector to a standstill.
I think the music industry has been really, really badly affected in general by the pandemic and everything that's happened, but I don't think anybody's been hit harder than the artists. They've had their touring income taken away, which I think for a long time has been like the majority of the source of revenue for artists.
It's definitely affected me because I was relying on that steady job and income, obviously, to pay rent. So it's definitely had an impact, and it's left, that thinking in the back of your mind, like, how am I going to recover from this?
I miss performing. That's what I miss the most about touring. That connection with the fans is unlike no other. It's almost like I'm thinking of it as a distant memory now, but I know that when I'm in that space, it's something that's just like indescribable.
There's a certain energy in the room that you get when people are shouting words, people are yelling, people are enjoying this moment with you, and it's that connection that I'm definitely missing.
Waking up in a different city every morning, trying to find a new place to get a coffee, just getting to play music in general. Being home for so long, it's great to be around family and you get to have a bit of normality for a while, but there are lots of aspects that do go missed.
I love music. I love sharing that with other people. It's actually just such a joyful thing when you go touring. It's exciting, and I'm kind of missing that excitement of a show. Even the anxiety that comes with playing a show, I'm kind of missing a little bit.
With all touring cancelled for the unforeseeable future, I've had to move back in with my parents. But it showed me just how fortunate I am. I get to live here on the edge of such beautiful country. Meanwhile, there's others out there who have it far worse. So I'm taking this time as an opportunity to stop and reflect on all that I've learned. For me, getting perspective is everything.
Living on the outskirts of a city under lockdown, I've found it very hard to find my escape. But being able to explore the Blue Mountains has given me a new sense of appreciation for the place that I live.
Well, yeah, it has been hard. My whole life has revolved around touring and playing music, and to not have that for who knows how long is devastating. But I'm in good health. I'm surrounded by a very loving and supportive family and friends who've helped me realise that sometimes you do need to pump the brakes and focus on the simple things, especially in such uncertain times.
As a musician, one thing that's really helped me during this challenging period is just being able to get out in the water. You just get so much joy out of it and forget about everything else. All you're thinking about is that next wave. You know, you're just looking out on the horizon, especially a nice sunset. There's just something so calming about that. No matter how stressful your day has been, you know, what else is going on in the world, you get out there and everything just disappears.
The fresh air, everything, it kind of resets any sort of stresses or worries I have from releasing an album. You just spent a year and a half on these songs and you're about to release like your babies to the world, and they're gonna tear them apart in a good way or a bad way, I don't know.
So today we're planting 1,100 trees right on the Wilsons Creek over the hinterland here in Byron Bay. We've got friends and family turning up. It should be a really wonderful day.
Today, with the sun coming out and all the trees are in place, and we just have to get 30 or 40 people across two waterways and up slippery slopes and get some trees in the ground and wish them luck. This area that you see here is known as the Big Scrub. There were trees everywhere, and those trees mostly got cleared originally for timber, and then after they took those out, pretty much everything else was removed for dairy.
When you drop that tree into the ground, you pat it down with soil, and you step back and you see all of the trees that all the people have put together as one. It's a really special feeling. On release week, sometimes we've done signings in the past, but to be here with some fans turning up is, I mean, it's a priceless experience.
We came from Sydney because I started studying horticulture and you guys are my favourite band, so sort of perfect match.
Finally get Caliuga out so people can enjoy what we've been working on for the last couple of years, and this is a great way to celebrate it.
It feels very fulfilling, an amazing location, and it's a good and natural thing to do to get your hands in the good.
In Heart's Wake made a pledge to one of our music videos that we would plant one tree for every 1,000 views. So today is an accumulation of those views.
We've just planted 1,000 trees at the Wilsons River. What a group effort. Thank you, everybody.
When we plant trees, carbon is drawn down from the atmosphere through a process called biosequestration. We keep the carbon in the trees and all the living parts of the tree, and that will help with climate change.
Every time you plant a tree and every time you support an artist or organisation that is planting native trees, you are restoring the planet, and you're also giving that gift forward to the future.
It feels not only a sense of productivity, but a sense of giving back. And you get to watch those trees grow with that environment and the animals can enjoy those trees as well.
It was great to be here today with the band, but also the fans and supporters of the band. Just great community, and fantastic that you all came along and planted trees.
Woohoo! How many trees did you plant?
I reckon about 134.
Right now, I mean, what's the date? I think we were supposed to be flying to America in like the next 2 or 3 days to tour the first run for Caliuga. And this is quite the opposite of that, in a conference room in a resort.
With all the current COVID restrictions, with the closing of the Queensland border, Kyle actually can't come as far south as Byron Bay.
So we've had to move it up to Kingscliff, and which is great. It's only 25 minutes from my house. Saves me, 30 minutes a day driving. So I'm stoked on that.
I expected there to be fans, people in front of us experiencing worldwide suicide, yet we're going to be playing to an open, empty room. And that's really a strange thought.
We had a 99% loss of business in a matter of like 2 weeks, so I was really stoked when the boys gave me a call, just because we've had 3 months of no work at all. So to get any opportunity to do something, especially like this, I was just so stoked to be a part of it. But yeah, it's kind of a mad scramble to get it all together.
The guys have been working super hard. Matt's currently still rigging stuff up the back. Chucky's still doing lights. Normally we move these things face to face with fans. Normally we want to be playing a show, sharing this moment with the people that have supported this record. And yet, this is the next best thing we can do, but at least we can do this.
Switching to the live stream method, I think, is a very interesting new part to the music industry that hasn't been approached previously very well. We can start to create new atmospheres for fans to be able to be involved in and be able to see how we'd like to portray the music. So for us, if we can create like a show that is eco-friendly and stream it to all these people around the world without them having to travel and without us having to travel as well, we're putting a good mark on the world. I'm here doing this show, which is the first show for me back from, 18 months ago. I just finished tour with In Heart's Wake, and I went straight into another show right off the back of that, and had a massive PA speaker come and fall on the front of my head during a setup for a show, and had a really hard time for 24 hours where I was very ill and very just not with it. I ended up in Tweed Hospital being put onto life support. My lung collapsed and I had to be intubated to basically stay alive because I was fully paralyzed at that point. Waking up out of that 12 days of being in a coma, I guess you would say it was, is a very humbling situation to be put in. Coming out of that and trying to get my recovery in my life and has been really hard. There's a term called FND, which is functional neurological disorder, which is, how to put it, is like software glitching in the brain. So the brain will send the wrong signals to my speech, my movement, and my sight. Even though this was one of the hardest 18 months of my life, I have to do this. I have to try to do this. I might not be able to ever tour again. I don't know how I would go on a plane, but if I can help my friends that are in the music industry move forward by doing a live stream, and I can test the waters and see how I fit back into that world, this would be the way to do it.
So many people out there tonight, huh? All right. If you're in your living room, your bedroom, in your neighborhood flat, let your neighbors know you're
I tell you, the first time we tried the leaves was rubbish. Literally rubbish. We threw it and it went like this, did nothing. Talking to Kyle, we came up with this idea of these hedge trimmings from his house, and they were small like confetti.
Chucky had told us that his seizures can happen at any time. Finished the set, thankfully, and the lights were on, and we were just starting to pack up, and he was walking, and he just like froze and was motioning to us to get something. I think he was asking for his crutches, and he just like, collapsed on the ground. We're still able to like communicate, but he said it's give it pass. He's just having a moment there where he needs to go through it. It's pretty full on to see. I've never actually seen Chucky go through that. It's kind of full on. But he's done amazingly, P.S. He was doing the confetti, the lights, everything. He's been incredible. So I feel like also it's a bit of relief for him, having made it through. I feel like this part of that is release, and he's done well.
As we were getting ready to leave, I received a phone call, and it was someone saying that an entire shipment of the CDs had been shrink-wrapped in plastic. At that point, with our CD having only just hit stores, it felt like our hard work had been compromised.
You know, we said fuck plastic, basically. Remember that? Fuck plastic. Did a public statement, yet it still somehow made its way onto an allocation of the CDs. You know, they were shrink wrapped in plastic, which sucks. Especially when you go to so much effort, right?
Yeah. I think it's because this is new for not only us, but for everyone involved in this. And like, it just goes to show these things take time because people just
assume plastic.
Yeah, it's like, no, this is why we're doing this, to try and make a change and do something different.
If it's to protect the package or whatever, then it is just about breaking that mold. Like, it is the first time probably, you know, any artists have done it really. And it is, you know, it will take a bit of time to change.
I guess part of me feels like we let down a little bit of the fans there. It kind of feels like we promised something that we couldn't deliver.
And on the flip side, I mean, it could also be something that makes us more motivated to try to break that.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, it's
100%.
Live stream was definitely a very new situation for myself, especially being involved in the live music industry for so long. Like, we've only ever played festivals where it was all handled behind the scenes.
Something that really rattled me, watching you at the end there, Chuck, after all that you put into that performance, it was like super emotional for me. And then when you had a seizure, and
I don't know if I'll ever tour again. I don't know if I can. I want to be out there to help you guys, to help the fans feel like, you know, they're a part of something. And Hellbringer was a Hellbringer for me in many ways. I felt it about halfway through. I knew something was going to happen afterwards, but I was hoping that it wouldn't. And then throwing the leaf confetti, I'm like, I can starting to feel my legs not being there and starting to feel a bit glitchy. And then I'm like, all right, I could get through the rest of the song. Got through the rest of the song, and then I just remember walking over to where Evan was. I'm like, I need my crutches because I couldn't feel anything below my waist. And then it happened. And it's a day after, and I haven't been able to talk all day properly. But, and I can barely walk. But it is what it is. And now I'm here, which is awesome.
You've got the best attitude about it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
You just can't, no matter what happens with what you do in life, no matter where you go, you can't let these types of things hold you back.
I'm grateful for that. If anything, this has taught me, it's...
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. Well, we got a party to get to.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate that.
Watch the stars shine through a telescope lost in time. The silver moonlight will carry me through the night.
It's definitely an age of much challenge and difficulty. When we decided on that title and this record and the concept, we had no idea COVID was going to hit, or that the bushfires were going to go into a blaze. We had no idea. And now it seems even more relevant, I guess, in a really scary way. And yeah, very proud of this record. We worked our asses off, really put ourselves on the line with bold choices after so much time off. And Kyle really stepped up on this one. He can't be here tonight because he's blocked off via the Queensland border.
Hey, Kyle.
Alright.
Ben can distribute Kyle around the room.
So yeah, label UNFD, they have the chart result, which doesn't mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean jack shit. It's just a number and the number fluctuates. But I think why this one actually kind of does mean a little bit to us is because we wanted to show the industry and our community that by doing a carbon offset record on recycled materials, it's not a complete shooting yourself in the foot. You can actually do it and have it be something that people get behind, that people support.
You guys came in at number 3 on the charts, which
Doesn't make you feel better.
38 copies behind number 2. Who didn't buy a record? Top 3 record. Carbon offset. First of its kind. So I got a call from the Greens office, and we're on our way right now to meet with Tamara Smith. She's got something for us to pick up.
It's my great privilege to be able to stand up in Parliament and talk about the work that your band is doing to help save the planet. Artists like In Heart's Wake can cross all political boundaries. You know, to me, the arts, it's such a powerful medium.
If you think about the fact that being an artist means that you have an intensely personal relationship with every fan. Every person that loves your music listens to what you have to say about the world, and there's a real opportunity to make a difference there if you want to speak up about anything that you're passionate about.
You've got leverage, you've got the ability to demand that your live performances or your physical products can be done in a certain way. Use that leverage and teach the people that are working for you how they can do this better in the future as well.
In Heart's Wake is a great example of bands taking responsibility and saying we want to do it very differently. And what that does is send a signal to other bands, other filmmakers, because we are inherently very social animals.
I think the time for just talking about something for the sake of doing it is over, bro. Like, it's just over, man. Like, we have to be about it, period. Sustainable touring is a must. If we want sustainability as a world, it's really that simple. Like, let's start walking the walk.
I think it's the selling point for festival tickets too, and to your audience, particularly if young people are particularly engaged in this space. They know they're going to an event that has a social conscience, and what's important to them is also important to the event. It's an incredible connection.
The more we can have these pioneers that actually get out in the front foot and say, you know what, we're going to actually offset our emissions of these tours, or we're going to do it with our filmmaking, it sets a precedent.
I'd really love if environmentalism or a sustainability plan wasn't an optional add-on, but it was just the way that we saw our business activity. So to go on tour is to make choices that will be positive for the environment. Environmentalism isn't a luxury that you can choose. It should be the new normal way to tour.
There's so much awareness now, and the younger generation are the ones going to these concerts, and they're the ones demanding the change. They're going to start saying, hey, what are you doing? You know, how are you offsetting emissions, or what are you doing for sustainability? We're going to stop listening to your records unless you step up. And then very quickly, in a matter of 10 years or so, it just becomes the done thing.
Global change starts with accountability. I mean, we can't expect others to change if we don't have the willingness to change within ourselves. So as we learn to be accountable, we then go back home and we have these conversations with our families, and it has almost a domino effect outwards.
I feel like it's the best decision that we've ever made, because not only does it help spread a positive message, but it feels so good to know that you actually are doing the best that you can.
It's hard to ignore that there's a lot of issues in the world right now, but I see a lot of positive movement and a lot of people who want to make a change.
I've been playing drums my whole life, and getting to get up on stage is something I'd like to continue to do for a long time. So in order to do that, we need to, create the blueprint for us and others to make it a sustainable thing to do.
I think collectively the whole band knew that we wanted this to be something that we could build upon and actually create a sustainable lifestyle for us and the planet at the same time. It's what we've always wanted to do.
There's been plenty of things that have been brought to the surface. So you know what? Bring on the discussion. Just so long as people understand that not only we're not perfect, but we're not going to get it right all the time. But if you can bring it forward in a constructive manner, then that helps us to be better at what we do. And in turn, I hope that helps others to see that, we're all capable of growing, capable of changing and evolving.
It's been over a year, so they're very excited to get back.
Honestly, can't wait. I see them anytime I get an opportunity to, and it doesn't feel real just because it's been so long.
Our journey unearthed an abundance of inspiring people with brilliant, achievable solutions and opened doors to becoming a climate-positive band. So follow where you feel called, taking steps to regenerate the world around you, one footprint at a time. The saying goes, it's always darkest before the dawn. Timely words to guide us forward, towards a brighter future, on the other side of Kaliyuga.
I am very hopeful for the future. I think that through all of these trials and tribulations, humankind is gonna come out stronger than ever before.
I am so hopeful for the future. I really am. I mean, this virus has enabled us to come together in ways that we probably never thought possible. I mean, a metal band going green? Let's go.
I never thought I'd be in a band full of little Byron Bay environmentalists.
I'm laughing because, like, have you ever heard of a metal band going green? These two things don't mix, bro. What are we talking about?
Yeah, green is the new black in the metal space. It doesn't surprise me because there are some pretty deep thinking metal artists out there, so I'm not exactly shocked.
The first time I listened to metalcore was in preparation for this interview. I'm just trying to, yeah, I mean, Black Sabbath, like who doesn't love Black Sabbath, but do you call them metal?
I think you've genuinely got to be interested and engaged for it to be authentic and for it to work. And I think, unfortunately, not everybody is. Still climate deniers, aren't there?
They're my favourite band ever. Love them
fucking cooked.
so much. He's fucked. We're both fucked. We love it. Thank you.
Basically, it went hard, guys. You just want to get in the mosh pit, make some mates, get up there and surf.
It's interesting coming from southwest Sydney, where a lot of people in, say, 10 years ago, it's pretty common to see someone finish their Big Mac and throw it out the window, like whatever. Not that I ever did that.
I actually remember one time we had probably one of our biggest shows booked, maybe like our first like really big sold out show. And I was getting ready to do it. And just as I was like kind of getting ready to go, I got like an emergency carpet call. Somebody had put feces on their carpet. So I ran out. You got to do it. They were like a regular customer. You got to look after the client base, you know? So I went out, cleaned that shit out of the carpet, and then within 5 hours, I was in front of a roaring crowd having a great time. I mean, like, that's a great life to me. It's got a lot of dynamics. Pretty polar opposite worlds.
What's the point of being negative and going, sweet, yeah, I told you we're all fucked. I'd rather say, hey, yeah, we're all going to be good, but then we're fucked. Don't take that part out.
No wonder people end up saying stupid shit in court. Imagine being interviewed, interrogated for 12 hours. You just go, I did it, just fucking let me go.